if you run an e-commerce brand and you use Shopify as your e-commerce platform, it's likely that you know about the buy now, pay later craze that's risen over the last few years. And it's really cool. It allows you to increase your conversion rates because you can lower the barrier of price to the customer. But here's the deal. If you're on Shopify, not everyone knows what options they have and which methods might be the best for you as the merchant. There's a lot of information about for the customer, but not necessarily for the merchant. And these apps can be really powerful, but they also have their disadvantages in certain places. So today we're going to discuss the top 4 Shopify buy now, pay later options and when you should choose them. Okay, so how do buy now, pay later apps actually work? Well, it's really simple. They present additional options at the checkout so that you can, instead of paying all at once, you can choose to pay over the course of a handful of months. So they spread it out over a handful of months, and it costs you typically nothing as the customer. It doesn't cost you interest rates or anything like that. And some require a soft credit check, but some don't require any credit check at all. So it's a really awesome option for a customer, and it lowers the barrier of entry for the brand. And so what are the benefits and drawbacks of using a pay later app for Shopify? Well, some of the benefits are it increases your average order value. Some stats even say up to 50%. And that makes sense, right? Because if you're spreading a payment out over 4 payments, that's 25% of the cost perceived upfront. And so, 50% might be low. It might be fourfold, what they'd actually be willing to pay, because the customers, the prices of the price perception is actually lowered. It increases your conversion rate for the same reason. The downsides, though, is you're paying a processing fee. Typically, you're paying a transaction fee that might be 4 to 8%, and it can't be used typically for subscription products. So if you sell subscription products, these type of options are not really, you're kind of already spreading it out. So it just doesn't really work together. You might be charged if customers don't pay. And you also could have a slightly odd return experience in some of these apps. And so we'll get into that in a second. But some of these apps, if the customer returns the product, you actually have to go into the app and make sure that you give a refund in the app and also give a refund to the customer in your Shopify store. Otherwise, they could actually continue getting charged even though they've returned the product and you've refunded their amount. And so there's some things kind of to watch out for. So let's get into the top 4 buy now, pay later options for Shopify Plus. So the first one is Shopify Pay installments. And so Shopify Pay is Shopify's payment solution, and we love it because it's super easy to set up for merchants. And you might pay a little bit more, but even typically that's not even that much, but it's just so much more integrated and so much easier to use than other payment options. And so they've actually come out with an installments program, which is actually powered by Affirm. Affirm is one of the big buy now, pay later companies out there, and they're powering Shopify Pay installments. And so you get that level of a big player. And so it's backed by one of the biggest players in the game. That's Affirm. The pros are it's the most integrated option, right? And so all the issues and nuances of management kind of go away, and it just works, which is generally for most people worth it, and you should start here. It's easy to start and it's easy to manage it. The cons are you're going to probably pay more, and the customer's going to pay more. And so typically there's a 6 to 8% transaction fee that these apps will charge. With Shopify Pay installments, that will actually be a little higher, and the customer, might pay a little bit more. And so there are certain times when the customer tries to change a payment, or if they miss a payment, or if they choose the option to spread the payment out over a longer period of time, there might be an interest rate attached to that. Some of those things are more expensive with Shop Pay installments, but it is the easiest by far to use, and it's great. All right, number 2, Afterpay. Afterpay was one of the first buy now, pay later apps. They kind of disrupted the entire industry, and they're kind of really cool. They have an integrated Shopify app, and so it's easy to install. It's well integrated into the entire flow for the merchant, for you, and also for the customer. The other cool thing is they actually have a marketplace of vendors that they market to, right? So people actually come to Afterpay and look for brands that actually offer buy now, pay later options. And it's gotten to the point where they actually send significant amount of marketing and traffic to some of the brands in their marketplace. So that's a nice kind of transactional benefit to Afterpay. They're also widely used by a lot of merchants for this reason. The con is really not that much. They just have lower limits. And so with any of these options, they're not going to, the amount that someone can spread out, like your product purchase price, will have a limit, and Affirm might have a lower limit. They have closer to $1,000 at the time that I'm recording this, but they're still a really great option. All right, number 3, Sezzle. Now, Sezzle is a little bit of a newer player to the game. When they came in, they actually had a lot more features, and they do. They have features like rescheduling payments, and they have higher credit limits for customers and those kind of things. They're a really cool brand. We actually know them well, and we work with them quite a bit. The cons are they're not an integrated Shopify app, and so you need to have custom code. You need a developer in order to integrate it, and they can be on the more expensive side. So they're about, at the time of recording this, about 6.1% as a transaction fee, and then about 30 cents per transaction. And this is all for the merchant. This is not for the customer, and so you pay 6.1% of your sale to Sezzle to actually handle this. They have certain features that might make it really interesting if you're a brand that has certain types of products and want to change the buy now, pay later thing, and you don't just fit right inside the box. Sezzle might be the way to go. Number 4, Klarna. And Klarna was originally a try before you buy app. And that it's very similar to buy now, pay later, but it was really intended to be something where you can try something, for 14 days. If you don't like it, you don't pay for it. And that in the e-commerce world, that's one of the challenges, right? Is someone can't touch and feel something. And that try before you buy, we've actually talked a lot about that. We've launched programs of try before you buy before in the past. And it actually has a lot of benefit when you can do that for certain types of products, because it lowers the barrier of entry. However, that's how Klarna actually entered the picture. And so the pros are, they have a lot of features that allow you to do things like try before you buy in a little more of a custom way than some of the other apps. They will pay you, at least at the time of recording this, they'll pay the merchant even if the customer doesn't end up paying. And some of the other apps actually charge you a fee if that happens. And then they also have a direct integration with Shopify and Shopify Plus. And so that's really nice. You don't need tons of development, or you don't need a developer to really get it going. You might need a developer to customize it a little bit. The cons are they actually have a monthly fee plus their transaction fees. And so the set monthly fee as well as some transaction fees. So it's a slightly different pricing model than the others. But again, if you're doing something where you need to do a trial and it's not necessarily for the spread out payments, but you have a brand like, let's say, there's sizing involved with your product line, and there might be back and forth to actually getting the customer the right size. Something like Klarna might actually be right for you. And look, here's the deal with all of these. There's really no best one, and there's no harm in having multiple ones running side by side. So I don't know if I said that, but you can actually run all of these if you wanted to side by side, and the customer can choose their option. Now, the downside of that is you really don't want to present more options to the customer than you really need to, because you'll actually end up lowering your conversion rate because you'll be complicating the sale with all the choices at checkout. Having too many choices for a customer is proven to decrease conversion rate. And so since we're trying to increase conversion rate, we really don't want to run all these side by side, although you could. My recommendation is use Shopify's Shop Pay Installments option and maybe Afterpay as well. And then if you need the features of Sezzle or Klarna, then that might be something to swap in instead of Afterpay, for example. Or maybe you do a third option, but I probably would prefer that you only stick to 2. These are great options for your brand, and it essentially allows you to lower the barrier to purchase for very low cost on your side. And so listen, if you're a 6 to 9 figure brand and you need to create a higher converting e-commerce experience, please contact Metacake and we would love to help. Thanks, and never stop growing.